So what is up? We're live on Shami's University. This training is going to be mostly focused, like I said, on structure charting for beginners. A lot of you that are diving into the markets, but you've never seen charts before. I'm going to ask again because some of you answered through, well, three of you answered. We got more people now. If you had to rate your charting on a scale of 1 to 10, what would it be? I want to see the numbers in the chat because I want to get an idea of what to cover. I know I'm gonna go into some things, some tools that I've used. If you guys don't know, I know, like, obviously I lead a lot of the builders calls. I was on the boot camp. Oh, tonight, by the way, in 2 hours, we have the opportunity call that I'll be doing for the North American GC. But what my past looked like with trading, I was probably mostly full-time trading in the business for my first, like, year. I'd say my first year I was really into it. The second year I was doing it more part-time, then I shifted off into automation because I really wanted to leverage obviously what the platform had, because for me, it was cool to obviously trade and I liked that, but then when I started shifting into the business side, I wanted to have my money work for me, just have multiple streams of income and just not have to worry too much about it. But one thing that I did was I learned charting, like, on a higher level. I was diving into SK. I was going into different courses that we had for GC. But what I'm going to be doing, because I know we can go into a whole, like, rabbit hole of charting, and I don't want to do that today. I just want to share some of the basics so that you guys know, at least on a more, fundamental level, what to understand and what to expect with charting. And the most important thing, so before I even get into that, the reason why we'd even look at charts, and for my more experienced traders, you guys know this, structure leaves clues. You always look at the bigger picture to kind of get an idea of where the market's going to head. You don't want to just, like, it's not, past performance does not guarantee future gains, but history tends to repeat itself, and you're going to find a lot of clues in the market that will be indicators of what is to come next. And is it going to be 100% accurate? Not all, definitely not, right? There's going to be some times where it just doesn't make sense. That's where you look into different things, though, like the news, right? That can cause big movements in the market, um like big events happening, obviously, because structure is one thing. But I remember having this conversation with Edwin, and there was this one guy that used to lead some of the channels before, and I liked him. He had a good, like, technique and all this, but the one thing that he kind of messed up on, which is why maybe his trades weren't as good, was because he's like, I don't look at the news at all, right? Like, I don't look at news. Like, I just do structure, Elliott waves, and then and then I just go off that. But you can't just go off that. But this will be like a orient, or not orientation, but introduction into the markets and actually charting. So I'm gonna ask you guys if you can see the screen in a second. Okay. All right. So I can see this on my other screen, so I know it's working. Let me know if you guys can see it. So this is what Trading View looks like. So if you don't know what website this is tradingview.com. I hope this is the right account that I'm using, but tradingview.com is a really good, it's like one of the best all-around charting platforms. It's free. I've never actually used the premium version because I didn't need it, because I was always trading on just one device and I was never using more than 3 indicators anyways. At least I don't think, right? Yeah, I think it's three or five indicators that you can use on the free version. But I would definitely keep track of this website, because you can look at what the market is doing on a bigger scale for all the markets, not just crypto, not just stocks, not just forex, but all of them. You can see news, which is really nice. So you can see up there's news. You can see the markets. You can actually filter through a lot of the assets that we have here, and they'll show you the top performing assets of the day. If you go into community, you can see, like, different people that are sharing different ideas. I would be a bit careful with that, because I think it's pretty much anyone that can post something. So you don't want to just, like, it's like, I think you guys could even post something in here, which can be a bit dangerous because some people take that as, financial advice. But what we're going to do is we're going to focus on this, okay, which is the charting. And the charts is what that's where we have the most interest in, at least for today. And like I said, I'm not going to really teach you a strategy, but I want to show you different things to keep in mind. And obviously, I'm going to show you how to use this in the first place because there's some people that use MT4. For my people that do actually chart, like what platforms do you guys use on your computers? I don't use MT4 because I think it's a bit complicated with, well, anyways, we can't even really use it for my North Americans at this point. But I wasn't using it anyways because on an Apple device, I think it's a bit trickier, right? I think it was mostly on Windows. You have to pay for it, but I don't know if it was compatible um with Apple devices. But yeah, trading view for charting, right? So there you go. Abid, it's Abid certified. So honestly, it's like the gold standard in my opinion. And yeah, so we're gonna go into, so you guys can see Ripple. I guess that was the last thing I was looking at. And what you do here when you're charting is you see on the x-axis over here, you can see the dates. I can change the time frame up here. So 1 hour. 1 hour is probably my favorite time frame to look at. But let's say you want to look at every candle representing a day, which would be a really, really, really zoomed out picture. This would be how it looks like. You guys can see there was massive movement over here in 2021, and then a massive retracement also in 2021. We've been on the downtrend since then, but we've seen, some bullish movement over here, which has been a lot of the talk recently of what was happening with Ripple in October. But you guys can see this is a very zoomed out picture, right? So I can go back to 2020 and I can even go back all the way to 2019 or even before that. That's when it ends over here. Actually, no, never mind. We can go all the way there. And the whole point is, what these charts are meant to do is just give you a whole view on each asset, right? Whether it's a crypto, whether it's a currency, a stock, whatever it is. You can even go into smaller time frames. So for those of you that trade binary, you're more familiar with this, like 1 minute, 3 minute, 5 minute, whatever. Like you're dealing with smaller time frames with different forms of trading, like whether it's swing trading, intraday trading, whatever it is. Like you're gonna want to use different time frames. I'm someone who likes using an hour, 30 minutes to an hour. You can see what happens when I keep the same the same scale here. When I go there, it's like you have to zoom in a lot. But here's what I want you to understand first. When you're looking at charts, there are a few different tools you can use. And if you see on the left side, there's a lot of different tools, and this might get a lot of people confused. But like I said, this is meant for beginners. So what I want you to understand is you're not going to be using every single thing here. It just wouldn't make sense. What I used as a beginner, I was just using trend lines. I was using trend lines to kind of just myself identify different things in the market. So I'd be like, okay, well, this was like my basic like intro, like nothing else. I'd be like, okay, well, this is what trend team. I was learning in my university for the first time. I'm like, okay, this is a downtrend, or I can say this is a bearish movement, right? And here I can look here. Okay, now we have everything trending up. So there's actually things called line charts, and line charts would be like an averaging out of the market, and they would use lines. So it's a lot easier to read. And sometimes for people as beginners, they look at this, they're like, oh my God, there's so many up and down movements. So, they put trend lines to kind of help them out. Then this is where you also have support and resistance lines. So people can use horizontal lines, or you can also use a trend line just to kind of mark things here. You can change the colors as well. But this is how you would use it, okay? Just so you understand. So you would use it somewhat like this. Again, this is called trend line. And you can see you can use arrows, you can use rays, all this stuff. Honestly, I would only worry about horizontal lines and trend lines. Arrows look cool, but they're not really necessary right away. I just want you guys, like I'm going to give you an assignment after this call for those of you that have no experience with charting. And I want you guys on that basic level to be able to kind of play around with these things, use them, because at the end of the day, like if you ask the traders on this call like how they started, like trust me, it was not advanced stuff right away. Like it wasn't. Like when I was starting to learn how to trade in general, like I was playing around with things that to me they didn't make sense, but I was using them. Also, Market Pro will give you assignments as far as charting. The university will give you different things for charting. So definitely look at that. Here's one thing. I used a lot of Fibonacci, so I have them saved on my toolbar here. This is a whole other thing that if we get to, I'll teach it. But like I said, I want to focus more on other stuff. So a lot of people ask, okay, so how do I actually look at something and enter a trade? Like how do I set like an order? And you can connect a broker to this, which will show you like actually the results. It'll be linked together, but you can see over here prediction and measurement tools. You'll see a short position and a long position. And this is what a lot of people use for like when they place a trade on their broker, they'll actually enter this simultaneously on TradingView. So they can look at the chart, maybe have the chart open all day and see where it's moving. Obviously, if you have a broker that has its own charting platform, you can use that. But something I would do, I actually had it's funny, I had a trading channel before. It was like a one that I only showed like a couple of my people on my team years ago. And it was doing really well. Like this was just a Forex, it was like I guess it would be more of a swing trading strategy. And and yeah, I was catching like hundreds of pips per trade. It was really cool. And like TP1 I think was probably like 50, TP2 was like 150. It was like big, big, big. It was crazy. But long position, do you guys know what a long position is? I want to see how much we know here because I know there's a lot of you that just got started. What's a long position? I don't want the experienced people to answer. I want the new people to answer. But if you've been here for more than 6 months, I don't want an answer from you. Please explain. I do not know. Okay, good. I like that. Anyone else? A long position. Yeah. So a long position is the equivalent to what a buying order would be. So let's say I was here on October 3rd of 2022. And I was like, you know what? Okay, based on my analysis, I'm going to enter a position over here. Once I click that, this is what happens. Do you see that? So this pops up. And well, as an upcoming trader for a lot of you, you're going to be setting your own take profits and stop losses, right? Like, and I'm assuming that you're going to get into that, obviously making your own trades. Like I said, if you're a beginner, don't worry about that too much right now. Just focus on entering trades yourself from the alerts, leverage that, learn the skills. But we're going into like, this is the basics of more advanced trading. You guys get what I'm saying? So if I were to label this as an advanced training, it'd be like the intro to getting into that advanced level because, many people won't need to use this. Let's be honest, like you can just leverage the alerts and you can learn, but now you're actually entering your own trades. So because we're on the 1 hour, what this is going to look like is very different. Because a big amount, it might look big, it actually won't be that big. And this would be, I'll actually use a currency pair here, so it's a bit more, you guys are a bit more familiar with it as far as pips and all that kind of stuff. I think this will be a good test of knowledge. I'm going to start testing you guys on this. Okay. So I said we're going to do a long position, right? Okay. So let's say we caught a perfect move over here. Why am I picking fibs? Here. And I was like, okay, I'm going to place my trade here and I'm going to set my take profit for, I don't know, like, let's do a TP1 of like 50 pips. Okay. By the way, this is the USD CAD. 50 pips. And my stop loss, let's say I make it 1-to-1. And I also make it 50 pips. So now I've set my take profit and stop loss, and I can see how the market moves over time. And if it fills my order, pretty much, I'm gonna see if it passes that take profit, if it hits the stop loss and goes all the way down. In this example, it never even went into the red area, which is not really that realistic. But let's just pretend like it went really well. So I entered this long position. So the take profit, the green area would obviously be above the entry price, right? And the stop loss would be below the entry price. Now, what happens when I use the shorting tool? Let's just say I went over here and I went to short position. And I'm catching it right on again, I'm assuming like you caught it perfectly over here. Let's do the same thing, 50 pips and 50 pips. So you see what it looks like on a short position. And you can see what it looks like over there. So if you caught this whole move over here, this move is what? Over the span of this October 26th, this is October 25th. This is a span of like a day. In a day, this trade, assuming I had an open take profit, so far, at the peak would have made me 140 pips. currently it'd be making me 119. You guys see how that's a pretty big movement? We're looking at the hour chart though. That's why. If I looked at that same movement on a 1 minute chart, that'd be like, I don't know, like 5 pips, 10 pips. It wouldn't be a lot, but it depends on the time frame that you're at. So do you guys have any questions on that? I don't want you to expect. I placed the orders randomly. Like you guys won't really know how to look for that at first, but I'm showing you different tools that you can play around with, because what you can do also is simultaneously set these orders when you're placing the trades from the alerts, because then you can see how it's moving over time. Because you know a lot of you that say, "Oh, like all I see is the dollars, but I don't know how many pips that means I caught." Right? Like how many pips did I catch? I mean, there's a way to calculate it. If you know how to do pip calculation, you calculate the difference from the entry price and your take profit, or entry price and where the price is at on the market right now. But if I'm looking at the actual chart, I can put it there and visually see what's happening on the trade, which would be really nice. So I'd actually give that to you as a side quest. I'll give you the main assignment at the end. But one of the things that you can do is, while you're entering alerts, actually go in trading view and place a long or a short order based obviously on what the trade is at the same time that you're entering it. So then you can see how your trade is moving visually. And how cool would that be? We can't share results, right? We can't share results, but what we can do is we can share the chart. Because if we have an order there, is that non-compliant? No, we just say, hey, look, guys, look, I entered an order on my chart here over here, looking really good. I use the education. That would be something that would it would intrigue a lot of people. They'd be like, hey, like, what is that? Don't you work at McDonald's? Don't you work at a restaurant? Aren't you like a student? How are you learning how to do this? Hey, great. I'm glad you asked. I'm glad you asked. There we go. Transition into the business. But I don't remember this many ads popping up. I might have to just buy it because this is annoying me. But you guys understand that, right? Let me see the chat. Let me take a look. What's everyone saying? Okay, awesome. Yeah, side quests. We doing the side quests over here. Okay. All right, let's go into another tool. What I also want to show you guys. Oh, you can also add text, by the way. If you want to add text, oh, you can add a tweet. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. But you could add text to different things. So let's say there was one thing that I was doing when I was learning how to trade, and that's I was marking different zones. So when I was looking at like all-time highs, or lower lows, higher highs, when I was looking at structure, with support and resistance, and I was actually labeling the chart, which you guys can do, by the way. It's totally okay to label your chart and add text on it. I know it's not the prettiest sometimes, but again, I'm assuming that all of you are beginners. Those of you that know, obviously you're watching this. And by the way I explain it would be a great way to explain to your beginners. So for my traders on this call, this would be how you explain it to some of the people coming up. Maybe this gives you some perspective. Because again, we don't really want to go into strategies all the time. We want to kind of mix it up and teach people, because there's people that have no idea and hop on these calls. So what I want to go over now is, let's see what else we have here. Let's do some patterns. Okay, so one of the ones that I use is the Elliott correction wave, or you can use an impulse wave. These are the two that I like using. And what I'll normally do with this is how I'll determine certain moves that I'm going to make in the market. Okay, so who knows? Actually, I'm going to draw this first so you guys can see. I'm going to move on the corner here, and we're going to draw two different things. Okay. Oh, my bad, guys. That probably like unlocked some trauma for some of you waking up in the morning. That's my TikTok reminder. Let me turn that off so it doesn't happen again. Okay, so we have this type of movement, right? We have this type of movement, and then we have this. And then we continue on from that to something more flat. Maybe not as bad as that. But what kind of trend is this? We already went over this, but I want you guys to identify something, because it's going to look really pretty and you know, purple and perfect over here, but it's not gonna look like that on the chart. Uptrend, right? This is what? Second one. Downtrend, nice. What's the third one? To my beginners, what's the third one? Steady trend. I like that. I'm gonna call it that for now. Steady trend. Neutral. This is what you'd call, I mean, with only 4 points, it's kind of like it's a bit, I guess, here. There's no clear indication of any trend in the market. We'd call this consolidation. Consolidation in the market is when you don't really know what's going on. It's like it's just kind of moving in between a certain channel. It's not giving a clear indication of whether it's going to be going up or down. And this is something that we use in trading to like we're preparing for next moves and we're looking at different charts. Like when you guys want to know when you're good at trading is when, and my traders will appreciate this, when you're good at trading is when you start swapping between a lot of charts and different time frames and looking at, okay, this is a consolidation, all right, let's move on to the next one where I get a better, you know, I get a better indication of something where it's overbought, oversold, and you know, it's starting to like place your trades or just kind of keep an eye on it, right? When you have a watch list. My watch list is extremely ugly because I have about everything in this watch list. But here, so if we look at an uptrend as an example, I showed you one over here, or no, I showed you a downtrend over here, but like it was just straight down and then straight up and then down and then up and then down. Like you see what I mean? Like these are not as pretty as what you would see in a drawing. By the way, if you didn't know this, each candle represents, because I know someone's gonna ask this, each candle represents 1 unit of the time that you've set. So an hour would be the candle, the hour candle. Every candle in this chart would be representative of an hour of time. So I think we got a nicer one over here, one that I could set. I mean, it's still not that great, but this would be like the clearest indication of like, I don't know, it'd look like a pretty one, right? So over here, we got this. See that? A 4-point easy one. And this would obviously be pretty obvious as to what you're doing. There's different strategies that you can use to actually enter trades. Like I'm gonna, honestly, on the next training I do, I'll probably get into how to apply all these tools and actually have like a basic strategy for price action and using structure to actually come up with different orders and place trades. I'm not going to do that today, but I'm just going to show you how this would look like. So one of the best exercises that I received that was in trading was from a video that I saw. It's actually a video that we have for elite members, and it's like a really like high value course. But it was to identify different trends in the market. Go spend 10-15 minutes and look at what's happened over the last week or the last month for that currency and start drawing trend lines, right? Start drawing trend lines. You can do that obviously with just the trend line that I showed you earlier, or you can do that through here. Identify support and resistance. Identify support and resistance. That would be another good one. So if I'm looking at this over here, if I'm looking at this movement, this would be a great example of what? Let me use my horizontal line now. So if I put a line over here, this is the initial starting point, and we move up, right? We move up over here. I'm going to mark this over here. So what line is this yellow one on the bottom for this first movement that we're making? What is this? Let me take a look at the chat. What is that bottom line? And I'm asking for as far as support and resistance. On the way up. You know what? I'll make it a bit easier actually, because there. Let's move it there. So remember the whole principle of it going up, right? So this is our first point, outside return. This is our level of support. right? Resistance, we're looking at the resistance line, seeing if it breaks through. What would happen, by the way, if the trend was going all in this channel? Remember I said something you can tell about, I'm not going to say the name because I don't want to give it away. You can tell if something is happening because it's all within one channel. There's no breaks in the levels that you see. Yeah, so there's be support. Consolidation, exactly. And resist. So now you see we've broken through resistance, we've broken through the ceiling. What happens then? What happens then? Now we have a new, what do they say? Resistance becomes. Yes. Gina's been doing the university. I like it. There we go. Michelle. Michelle too. Okay. So now this line, we're going to pretend like it doesn't exist. Okay. I'm going to move it up here. Hold on. I'm pretending like this line doesn't exist. Just ignore that. Actually, I'll just delete it. Okay. So this is almost like our new support level. You can see that the market has tested that level over here. If you zoom in, there's nothing. This is a little bit ugly now because you're not seeing much happen. There's a movement up, then it goes down, it goes back up to that point, and we kind of see this. This would be a great example of what on a small level. This is what's happening in this channel here. This lasted what's this time frame? It'd be the 6th at 7 to the 10th at 5. So say about a day. Nothing really broke the resistance level, right? But then it did, and we form a new level of support. Oh, I think my laptop's about to die. But if that does happen, what's my laptop at? You guys think I can save it? No, I'm not going to save it. So you guys understand what happens there, right? Now we go into the new level, and obviously we have once we break resistance, then it's, you guys get the pattern. It's just repeating over time. Pretty much every single time it's repeating itself in that way. And we're able to use that to our advantage because now this will help us identify trends so that we can place orders after that. All right. And we can identify movements in the market. All I want you guys to do is I want you to go into TradingView and I want you to practice this. And notice how I'm applying really basic principles to trading for this. Because if I didn't know what support and resistance was, I wouldn't be able to identify that. If I didn't know what a trend line was, I wouldn't be able to know. I wouldn't know how to do that. If I didn't know that once you break through resistance, it'll become a new support level, you wouldn't know how to really approach this. If I didn't know what take profits and stop losses were, I wouldn't know that. If I didn't know what consolidation was, it wouldn't make sense to me. The more that you learn, the more you can apply and the more you can identify into the market and when you're actually charting. Charting is meant for you to get a bigger picture of what's happening in the market so then you can place things for the future. And you can always look at history, look at, the lowest lows that have happened in the last year or in the last month, which will give you really good levels of support and at the top, the highest highs, which can give you levels of resistance to keep in mind. Because one thing, once you get into more advanced trading with let's say the sequelizer is about forming different channels in trading and finding different zones, and you're going to see that there's zones within time frames, and you zoom out and you see like a massive support level on top of you looking like Thanos, and that's like from and then you look back in time and that's like from the last year, like that's the highest high from the last, you know what I mean? Like, so it's like you're looking at different things. I remember when I was trading and I was using that, I would see like a gigantic line on top of my little trend. I'd be like, where the hell is that coming from? I'd be like, oh yeah, that's what I identified from like the last quarter or from the last year. So that's like the main thing. I see Joseph laughing because he knows what I'm talking about. But that's the whole idea with this, right? And aside from that, like I don't want to dive into too much because even that, like I know for a lot of us who have been trading, that's, you're like, okay, that's a pretty basic training. But for some of you that have no idea what I'm talking about, even just seeing a chart like this might get you a little bit scared and a bit overwhelmed. Are there any questions that you guys have when it comes to anything I spoke about today? because we just went over things for I'd say about 30 minutes, which I think is a good time. Um, like enough information to give you. But do you guys have any questions on anything about like the basics of maybe using TradingView, what to look out for? Also, I'll show you before while you guys ask questions. This it's like a favorites bar that you have here, right? And this bar actually, so instead of me clicking on all the tools over here, I can actually set it up so I have things here. So if I were to go to text, let's say, and I want to add, I don't know, the tweet, because I've never seen, I want to see what that looks like actually. What does that even look like? Tweet, right? I can click on the tweet button. Oh, okay, that makes sense. So you could insert a link to a tweet that you saw that maybe gives some like news, right? So it could be like a note that you have on the side to reference to. So if once I label or once I favorite things, it'll appear here, which by the way, it's a little hack to make things a lot easier for you. So all I use are the first four, really. I mostly use the first four. I'll use this to play around the circle as well, horizontal line as extras. I won't use the tweet again though, so I'm gonna remove that. But that's just kind of the whole thing for you. You can even add pictures, do all that kind of stuff. It really comes down to you. You can add emojis, icons. That's the whole thing. So let me see if we have any questions. Doesn't seem like we do. But like I said, my assignment to you guys is going to be mainly focused on going into the chart, practicing this, horizontal lines, using the trend lines, using the waves over here like I used, and just identifying certain things. So as I would use like maybe a rectangle to identify this consolidation, which is a small one over here. Just adding different things. Like trust me, you can look like you know what you're doing to the average person by putting random. I would do this back in the day, by the way. I'd put random trend lines and a Fibonacci and like a and a rectangle, and people would be like, "Yo, what's that? That's crazy!" And then it's like for those of you that actually know trading, it's like this guy just put the most basic thing on a screen. It's not even one indicator, but it shows that you're doing something. And I'm telling you, like you guys know how heavy I am on the business. And like one great way to really promote the business is to show what you're doing, show that you're learning. It's okay, like you guys are starting from a basic level. It's fine. It's like show what you're doing, because this is what makes it really attractive to people. This is how I really built my business in the beginning, because I was documenting a lot of my learning. I wasn't shying away from saying, hey, I'm a beginner, like, you know what, I'm learning a skill, but this skill is going to make me a lot of money over time. And that's what it did, right? And then obviously we dive into how investing gives you the mindset of having multiple streams of income, and that mindset of having multiple streams of income gives you the mindset to dive into different things like the business. So that's really the main thing that I had to say. I hope you guys enjoyed that. And like I said, in about an hour, we're gonna have a pretty really cool call, which is gonna be the opportunity call that I'm doing. So make sure you guys plug into that team. It was awesome doing this, and this will be recorded and uploaded onto the champions, the GC Champions YouTube channel. So I'll see you guys on the next one. Okay, peace.